Joe Biden made a campaign stop in his hometown of Scranton, Pennsylvania today, where he made his economic pitch for middle-class America.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have to rebuild the middle class. Let me explain what I mean by middle class. You know, I have a lot of economists work for me. They'll tell you middle class is 51,800 or 52,000. Middle class is a value set. Middle class is being able to send your child to a park and know they're going to come home safely. Being able to send them to a local public school that you know if they do well, they'll be able to go beyond school. They'll be able to get a degree. They'll be able to get, oh, really. And knowing if they get in, you can find a way to pay for it. Middle class is being able to take your geriatric mom home when dad dies and hope your children never have to take care of you. That's middle class. Just a little bit of breathing room.
Biden then traveled to Iowa, and that's where we find CBSN political reporter Caitlin Huey-Burns. All right, Caitlin, the Trump campaign is hoping to use strong economic numbers to make their case to voters. How does Joe Biden plan to counter that?
Yeah, the economy is at the center of Trump's re-election pitch, but Biden and other Democrats are trying to speak to voters who may not feel like the economy is working for them. While it may look good on paper and the numbers may look good, it doesn't work for everybody. And he's really focused on things like wages and focused on areas where Donald Trump did well in 2016 and trying to message to voters about what he perceives as broken promises made by Trump and the failure to see real meaningful changes in your personal economy. So that's kind of what he's focused on. He has supported things like a increase of the minimum wage to $15 an hour. He's talked about reversing some of the tax cuts and changing some parts of the tax code. But overall, he's trying to get back on message here and make this kind of back to a campaign solely against Donald Trump. Because remember, Joe Biden has been on the defense a bit over the past few weeks, not only from Donald Trump, but some of his rivals as well. And now he's trying to return to his original kind of theory of the case, which is that he's best equipped to take on Donald Trump. And so he's going to where those voters are. And in Iowa today, he has an event here in a few minutes and later tonight as well. He's focusing on counties that voted for President Obama in 2012 and 2008 and switched to Donald Trump in 2016. So trying to kind of court those voters who he feels might be convertible.
Well, a new national poll out today has Biden with his widest lead since April, but he has lagged behind in fundraising and is neck and neck with Senator Warren in key early states. So what should we take away from this poll?
Yeah, the Biden campaign is really excited about this poll because it shows two things that they're focused on. First, that he's increased support among moderate or conservative voters, and that's where they kind of feel comfortable, again, trying to convert Trump voters or speak to those more moderate Democrats, especially as Elizabeth Warren has been kind of on his heels and overtaking him in some polls. And they're also focused on how he is doing well and has actually gained support among non-white voters. And this is something that the Biden campaign believes separates him from people like Elizabeth Warren and a Pete Buttigieg, who is also seeming to be gaining ground, especially here in Iowa, that he has a diverse coalition. So even if he lags behind in the polls, that he still has this base of support among African-American voters, Hispanic voters, and others who will really help to solidify the vote for the Democratic nominee, whoever that may be.
Well, according to a Suffolk USA Today poll that was conducted last week, health care is the #1 issue for Democratic Iowa caucus goers. We know Biden is no fan of the Medicare for All plan. So how does he plan to pitch his health care vision?
Right. He's been talking a lot about expanding upon Obamacare and going after candidates like Elizabeth Warren and charging that those candidates want to change Obamacare or go backwards and put it at risk. And so that's where he has been on this issue. But it's really interesting talking to voters, especially here in Iowa, because health care comes up all of the time. But they're not really talking about it in terms of Medicare for all versus Medicare for more or Medicare for all who want it, which is what Pete Buttigieg has been talking about. They're concerned about how this just affects their bottom line. And so, we talked to one voter earlier who said that just concern about the overall cost of health care. Another voter we talked to a couple of nights ago at an Elizabeth Warren event talked about kind of the costs that she incurred when her husband was sick and had to care for him. And so that's the kind of conversation that voters are having, and they're just really concerned about the costs or about losing access to insurance. And so that's why you hear all the candidates talking about it, but have different ways about how to get there. Of course, Elizabeth Warren has been under criticism for the past few days for not explaining how she would pay for her system.
Well, last night you spoke to someone in Iowa who was open to voting for any Democratic candidate. Here's what he said about the frontrunners.
Biden's one of those people that I say considers himself a realist, so it's kind of, I'm only going to run on things that are 100% realistic, as opposed to Bernie and Warren, who, you hear with Bernie all the time, he wants to start a revolution, a systematic revolution, and that's something that, inspires a lot and scares a lot. It's just what strategy you want to take. Do you want to be that Bernie, do you want to be Warren, or do you want to be Biden and just run on the realistic ideologies and views?
So, Caitlin, I'm curious, are you hearing that from other people in Iowa?
Well, I think what he said really crystallizes the heart of the debate in this presidential primary. You have Joe Biden saying, look, I'm someone who can actually get things done. He often says that plans are great, but let's talk about what's really practical here. And you're starting to see Amy Klobuchar and Pete Buttigieg also echo that message as well, trying to draw contrast with Elizabeth Warren, who says that big structural change is what she's all about. In fact, it's become something of a call and response line at her campaign events. Voters know that that's what she is advocating for. So that's kind of the two dynamics at play. When you go to Elizabeth Warren events, you hear people very supportive of her, but also you hear that people are open to other candidates. And also in one of the polls this week, it showed about 30% of Iowa voters are still deciding on a candidate. And I think that's really true here. While we're starting to see kind of voters have a first or second or third kind of choice, they're still open, and that's why you see candidates like Mayor Pete Buttigieg or Amy Klobuchar trying to find their lane in this primary.
Caitlin Huey-Burns in Iowa for us. Caitlin, thank you.
Thank you.